Well, we haven't heard anything from Mensch yet, so before we get started with what we're going to do today, we're going to go over this New Holland skid steer that we have outside here. I've got this tractor that I want to get ready to hook onto a corn planter. I need to get the corn planter controller in it. But before we get started on that, I thought I'd walk around this New Holland skid steer. We ended up buying a piece of equipment from CNY Power Sports, and they asked us what we were using for skid steers currently, and they wanted to know if we wanted to try out a New Holland. I said, well, you know, what the heck, can't hurt to try. So we do have a Kubota that has more or less timed itself out here. It is ready to be traded in, and we're gonna give this guy a try. So they dropped this off yesterday. It's got about 5 hours on it. It's an L318. We'll run over and put it up next to the Kubota. It's about the same length, which is important for the skid steers that we like to use, because we want to get in between the feed alleys crossways to scoop feed up against the curb, and the real long big skid steers are a little clumsy for being able to do that. So why don't we just run this over across the road, put it up next to the Kubota quickly here, and then we'll pull it inside the shop. What I want to do is open it up, look at the engine compartment, and see how easy it is to service and whatever like that. Now this is an open cab unit. If we buy one, it's going to have a closed cab just because of the type of weather that the guys are operating this in, whether it's pushing feed in or going from one barn to the other. You are held captive inside that cab, and it's actually colder in the skid steer than it is outside the skid steer. So let's go ahead and pull this across the road and park it up next to that Kubota, and then we'll bring it over and put it in the shop and walk around it in the shop. Well, we're over in front of the calf barn now. I don't quite have this pulled up right in line with the Kubota, but it is very close in size to the Kubota machine as far as total vehicle length and whatever else like that. Looks like the wheelbase is maybe a little shorter. However, it is going to work for us. Getting in between the feed alley curbs. So we'll go ahead and pull this over into the shop and do a little walk around of it with the engine compartment open, maybe drive it around a little bit, and see how the ease of operation is with it. So it's got a lap bar, and then that'll release the park brake, I guess. And then the throttle's a little goofy. It doesn't go right to wide open. However, well, it does. I guess it was cold when I first started it here. we were just making sure that there was a safety prop on this. Did you run this at all? Kind of easy to get in and out of. Not too bad. What's that?
Cylinders look small.
Cylinders look small. Yeah, that's a good observation. It's not quite as beefy as the deer. Well, let's go ahead and open this up, Nate. See how it's going to be to change the oil on it. You don't like this stuff, do you? So he's opening the top of the hood. Now he's swinging the engine compartment door back. Where's the fuel go in?
Right here.
Okay, there's fuel fill here. Hydraulic oil here. Engine oil. It doesn't look to be as open as the Kubota. I don't know what we have for clean outs. Does this radiator swing out? Looks like the radiator's something. They've got a pin here.
These bolts are... No, there's hoses on this side. Would it come open on that side?
I don't know. Looks like she's awful tight. Awful tight. So where's the oil drain on it? Looks like we got some nice tie downs in the back. Looks like we got a skid plate. We've got one skid plate across just in underneath the engine. One up in front of that. I don't know if you guys could see that. And then there's one up in under the seat, and then a little one at the floorboard to let all the manure out and water and whatnot. So this doesn't look like it's as easy to get to as far as doing a service on it.
What's in here?
But well, we got the battery right there, so that must be a way to get into the battery if you're dead and your boom is down. So looks like we have a electrical disconnect here. I guess it's not too bad as far as the battery, you know. Machine goes dead.
It'll all come out pretty easy. I mean, it's just a few bolts.
Yeah. I guess it's not horrible. If you go to wash this area out here, there is a hole. Well, there is a good hole in the front to let all the material out. Looks like there is a cap. Probably the cab unit probably has a cap that goes on there to keep your feet from getting cold. So, well, what's the cab do to flip up? The cab flips right up on it. So we should probably flip the cab up.
This way, right?
Yeah. How does that happen? Yeah. Let's take them bolts up. Looks like 15/16 will do the trick all day long. You lift your washer as well. All right. Okay. Well, this is all open. I guess it looks like that cab would raise if the boom was down, right? Yeah. Either or. Now the Kubota, that cab won't. What does that have to be? Does that boom have to be up or down on that?
Either or.
That'll work either or? I don't know. So it's all open in here as far as getting to and accessing hoses. We have a mongrel hose on the John Deere skid steer that goes back to the cooler under the engine. It's kind of a mongrel. But this is decent, I guess. The only thing
Where's the fuse panel?
right here,
It's not this.
I don't know what's up in there. We've got one engine fuses are there. Got the computer here. I don't know what those are down in there. Those must be for your lights and whatever. And I suppose if you took up some of these panels here, you'd be able to get into more of the engine, either with this side panel removed. Kind of nice to have a battery access door. Sometimes you really have to fight to get the deer going. How's the Kubota? Is that? I don't know where that battery is. I think that's right in the back. But I don't know. Yeah. Got this little door that hinges up or something. Gotta take it off completely. No, that would allow you to get down in there and add some wind to the situation to get all your debris out, right? Yeah, I guess it's not too bad. We'll see how the pricing goes. I don't know if we're gonna buy one or not. We may just have to let Nate decide. What do you think? Would you buy one, Nate?
Whoa!
Huh?
Easy.
Huh? I think we're gonna let Nate decide. So we're gonna let him sit down with the salesman here and they're gonna discuss pricing. So if you see one on this farm, you can thank Nate. If you don't see one on this farm, you can thank Nate, right? John Deere or New Holland? All right. No, I'm serious. You'll have to decide. Well, we'll get this thing closed up, and I've got to make a phone call to Mensch to figure out what I'm going to be doing for the day here. I see tires pulling in on a trailer. We've got 2 tires for the 9560 that we had, and then we've got 6 more coming from McLaughlin's that are going to be installed here soon. So we'll join up with you in a little bit here. I've got to figure out what I need to do with that thing, and we're going to get this tractor ready to go on the corn planter. Well, the boys have got this 8220 ready to be hooked on the planter. They worked on that here a little while ago. I haven't gotten an answer out of Mensch as to what they're going to be able to do for us on this frame. I'd like to put a new frame in it, but they haven't yet come up with a plan as to how we're going to get this to them and whatever else like that. They don't have a frame made for it yet. I can't order a frame and have it shipped here because by the time I get it, it's probably going to be May 1. The other thing that they're working on next door here is the crawler. We got truck 7 out. They've got the flatbed on that has the fertilizer tanks on it. And they are working on getting this thing ready to mix up some poop. We've got these A-arms that come down to the wheels. A couple of them are cracked and broken. Nate's working on getting them fixed up now, and they're doing some they're just doing some repairs to it. Now we're having a little bit of a fight with Cummins right now. Them sons of bitches. They came here. We had injectors put in this thing last year. The first set of injectors failed. They had to warranty them. They were we had a fight with them to warranty the injectors. They warrantied them, and then it wasn't running quite right. Had them come back out, and they said in order for us to warranty them injectors, again, they put a fuel rail on it as well. By the way, this has a 6.7 liter Cummins engine in it. They came out, They diagnosed it as it needing a fuel pump. They wanted $5,000 for a fuel pump. Jared says, we ain't having it. He ended up putting that air dog on there. What did that air dog cost? $700 for that. Took care of the problem. Them bastards dinged us for $1,184. That was what they had in this for labor. $194 an hour. I said, your man was here for 1 hour. Oh, you got travel time. I said, well, it don't only take me about 45 minutes to get to East Syracuse, so I'll give you 2 hours travel time and an hour that he was here. That's 3 hours. That shouldn't be any more than 600 bucks. So we're still arguing with them. And we would just soon not buy anything that had a Cummins engine in it because service is horrible. We'll stick with the Deers and the Cats. So a little rant on that because we're not too happy here. Another thing that's getting worked on is Jared's finally able to get his engine going back together here. Tim went and picked up this stuff from the machine shop. They had to take the Pottinger Teradisc over to Kaz to have some updates done to it, warranty updates. They took it over with the 8320R, and that tractor is getting some work done to it. It's got some front end issues that we had discovered all of a sudden. So that's what's getting worked on here now. Jared will get this engine going, and by tomorrow afternoon it'll be running, right? Not tomorrow afternoon, maybe a couple tomorrow afternoons later. Yeah. Well, we're gonna get after working on this unit here. Good thing this has got a Deere engine in it. The trouble with the vac truck is that's got a Cummins in it, and we don't know as if we'd ever buy a vac truck again that's got that style engine. So Nathan's over there. He's got his cool man shades on. He's waiting for me to set this camera down so he can run the grinder, and we're gonna do just that. Well, we got this one plate cut off of here, and in the meantime Mensch has called me back, and they're going to be quite a while before they can get to this. We're going to put a new frame in it, but they're going to be 4 to 5 weeks before they can get to it. So we're going to put a quick band-aid on it. Maybe we end up fixing it good enough and we say the heck with it, we'll just keep running it. But at this point we're going to have to get it fixed. So what we're going to do is we're going to unhook this axle, drop it out, and then we'll continue cutting the rest of that garbage off of this frame so we can put a nice plate over the top of that. And then we'll do the same thing with the inside rail. Alright, we have the drive line unhooked. We got the transmission jack placed in there. We're going to cut these bolts when we got a couple of hoses unhooked. After we get this lowered. So, we gotta do a little story there. Story time. Alright, now we've got this lowered. What we have is a few hydraulic lines to unhook here. We've got 2 on the drive motor, we've got a couple on a differential lock unit, 2 steering, and it looks like we've probably got to get the blowgun out and blow off all that sand that's on the top there, and get these lines unhooked, try to cap them. I think we're going to have an oil mess here on our hands, but oh well. So we'll get this stuff unhooked and get that pulled out. Well, we've got all our hoses unhooked, and now we're going to try to get this out of there. There's more hoses on there than we originally thought. We've got a little bit of an oil mess, but we're gaining. So we're going to go ahead and pull this on out. Hopefully we can get it out of there with it remaining on both of the jacks. Right, Jason?
Well, fuck yeah. Yeah, we'll just have to go down and make everything good.
You gotta watch that block of wood.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah, you're all the way down. What am I resting on?
I got these blocks. I mean, this side is heavy.
Yeah, this, come on. There we go. You off that block?
Yep.
Alright.
Have somebody else put pressure down on this side here. Keep it running.
Yeah, maybe help us push it. They might have to hook a rope on it.
Come on, man.
Yeah, that's still on. Okay.
Come on. Yeah, you're right.
Well, she's on. Well, with having this axle removed, it's going to make getting this all fixed up the way it should be a little easier here. So we're going to get on this in the morning. We got all of our sand cleaned up, and we've got to burn off some plate burn off some pieces rather, and get some plate cut out to put on there, and then we'll have that all beefed up. So Jared has the cam and the crank installed into the block here. So he does have it mounted on a makeshift stand upside down. Now, do you have that stand so you can flip that block over and that'll bolt on right side up?
Yeah.
So it's not an ideal engine stand, but at least we're not using a tire. So what would be nice is to have a stand that you could bolt the block into, and you could rotate it around and have it work. But yeah, it is what it is. We've said it before and we'll say it again. It's an awful small looking block when it's at this particular point of the assembly process. Once it's actually sitting in the engine, it looks a lot bigger, but all of that is just secondary, really. So we'll get to working on this guy here in the morning. I have not heard anything more from Mensch. They had a couple of options. They had the option of, you know, hey, just cob it together, and in 4 or 5 weeks we'll have a new one for you to use. We'll take your unit in, and in a couple weeks time we'll have a new frame. But they wanted to change the axles because it's a different axle design, heavier axle. This style frame here they're not making anymore, which you can see why. But they were supposed to call me back, and I haven't heard anything from them. So it looks like we're going to be able to get this fixed up, and we probably aren't going to need a new frame. But what's going to probably happen next is the front's going to start breaking. But to be honest with you, I think the reason why this is done what it's done is because of the weight of the engine hanging off the back of this tail section of the frame. So if we can beef everything up, we ought to be in pretty good shape. The problem that we have with beefing this up on that inside frame rail of the left side, this differential rubs against it. So we can't put anything on that inside frame rail unless we have this axle shifted over one set of mounts, and I don't know if that'll work either. So we'll get after it here. All right, we've got all of our pieces burned off. We've got the frame rails, the gussets, and the goofy crap that they had welded on there. We've got that all removed. Now we just need to go over it with the grinder, get that all smoothed off. I've got somewhat of a plan in place as far as how we're going to beef that up. This is all the stuff that I cut off this left side, and then we've got about the same amount of material that we have removed from the right side. Got them pieces and chunks and whatever on the floor there. We've got to bring this frame rail on this side. We've got to pull it this way a little bit. So we're going to get on the grinder now. I've been on the torch for 4 or 5 hours here just burning stuff off. I've got some holes burned through here and there, but it is what it is. We're going to beef that all up, and it's going to be all good like. I've been on fire a couple times. We've got holes in our pants. We've got holes in our shirts, and it was a mongrel underneath there, torching the plate off the insides there. So we've got to go down through it. We've got to spend a couple of hours with the grinder just cleaning that all up so that we can get our pieces into place. I did get a call back from Mensch. If we send this machine in and they replace the front axle, these are 212 axles, Spicer 212s. What they would like to do, of course, they would love us to do this, is replace the axles, go to a heavier axle. This bed we replaced in 2019. It's got the John Deere engine. The machine has the John Deere engine in it. So the rest of it, other than the frame and undercarriage, is in pretty good shape. If they take this machine in and put new axles in it, because they would like to see us go to a heavier axle. They're not making these anymore or dealing with parts or whatever. If we went to the 213 axle and the updated frame, it would be in the neighborhood of about $90,000. Ship the machine off, they put a new frame in it, move all of our gadgets over to that frame. If we kept these axles and went with this style frame, but the frame that would work with these axles, that was somewhere in the neighborhood of about $45,000. This unit was it was right around $101,000 when we bought this in 2000, I think it was 2011. So it's 12 years old. A new one now is right around 190. So they've gone up about 90 grand. If we get this fixed, it's roughly half the cost, or a little less than half the cost of a new one. The only downfall to it would be it's got the used cab on there, 3-year-old sand bed. The motor is indestructible, and they would put all new hoses on it, which we're going to replace the majority of these hoses as we put this, once we put this axle back in. But I'm going to pull the grinder out and we're going to get grinding on her here. I've got a pretty good plan in place how I'm going to weld this all back together, and I think we might just save ourselves at least $40,000 here by repairing what we have. So let's get on her, and we will touch base with you once we get that all cleaned up. And we've got some iron laid out here that we're going to start cutting and getting into place. So we'll join up with you in a few moments here. It's going to be a couple hours. So yeah. Well, before we show you the progress on this sand truck, I thought I would show you Jared's engine progress here. He has flipped it over. He's got the crank installed. Now he's setting the liner protrusion. I don't know if he's got 3 or 4 done already. Looks like he's got 4 done. He's on number 5 or something. Andrew had a chance to plow a little snow with the New Holland skid steer. What did you think of the old New Holland? You think you prefer the Deere? We got a load of hay coming today. He cleaned the scale off. How did it handle that? Yeah. The scale's a metal deck, so we use a tire bucket on that. So we'll show you more on this project as Jared moves along here. But he is checking the proper protrusion of the liner itself. So we might as well show you what we have going on with this sand truck. We've got the frame basically cleaned up on the inside and the outside. I've got a little more to do on the other side there, then we could start cutting our pieces to put on there. have you ever heard the expression that once you get past the 2 inches that the last guy screwed up, it's not all that bad? Well, this is one of them jobs here. So we're slowly getting through the screw-ups of how this frame was actually made, and it would be maybe better to just cut those pieces out, because I do have a length of 3x10 quarter wall tubing, but then I've got to set the proper length and all that, and then this engine's going to fall off the back. So we should be able to beef this up and have it stronger than it was when it was new. We're going to be, I'm almost thinking, I'm 90% sure that I'm going to set a piece of angle iron on there coming across the top and down. Therefore, it's going to raise the bed a 1/2 inch. They have a piece of, oh, I don't know if we can see it in here or not. Yeah, we can. They have a piece of plastic material sitting on a couple of skids here, and that is welded down. We're going to have to cut those little welds off, and we're going to have to raise that up a 1/2 inch so that the chain on the return side can rub on that guide right there. So with doing that, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to cut our tabs out there and raise them up a 1/2 inch, or make some new ones. Probably could make some new ones, just cope this out a 1/2 inch. Drill a 3/4 inch hole in a couple of pieces of steel and just weld them on the outside. So that's my thoughts there. We really can't put the angle iron on the bottom of the leg in and the flat part out, because we've got this cutout right here. So I thought we would put a piece down over the top like this, and then it's going to come down into here somewhere, and either put another piece on from here to there and back again or whatever, but at least fill that few inches in with some flat bar or something and get her all welded up all nice like. So we've got to get after that. The other thing I thought about doing too was just cut these plates off, move them down 4 inches, and do the same with the one up there, and just have the whole unit set up 4 inches higher. That's an idea as well, but for right now, I think we're just going to go with my original plan here and try to get this thing back together. So we're going to lay out some angle iron. I'm going to run, I don't know if it's 4x7 or 4x8. We're going to run right from here all the way back to, well, it's going to be our fender brackets. We're going to try to get it in between the fender bracket. It's going to set down 7 inches down into here somewhere. We'll have to cut it out for this here, but the stiff part will be over the top, and then we can put a plate on the inside. We'll have to cut it out there as well. Now on the inside plate on the other side, we can't be only about 1/4 inch thick, because this transfer case rubs on that one side. So we have a clearance issue on the inner frame rail of that left side. So we do have some straightening to do here a little bit. It's sitting down there a little bit in the back, so we're gonna have to get a jack underneath that engine and jack it up. Now I was lifting the box here with the gantry. I was originally back a little farther, and once I lifted the box up, the whole frame wanted to come forward because we're heavy up front too. And then we've got the engine. Oh, the engine is supported in the back. So the other option I have, other than jacking it up, is just to let this top part down and then try clamping it as well. So we've got some fitment to do here, and once we get things laid out, we'll join back up with you when we get a little farther along here. So that's the progress as of right now. Well, we are now ready to cut some material. We're gonna lay an angle iron. We're gonna put a piece of angle iron. We're gonna lay it over the top, have it come down 7 inches on this side. It's gonna be 55 inches long. We're gonna put it in between the two fender brackets. It's gonna come down 7 inches. It's gonna overhang just a little over 3 inches on that inside top lip. And then when we put a plate on the inside, it'll come up right up underneath it, and we can weld all the way across it. It would be stronger to put the angle iron across the bottom. However, it's going to be compromised once we make the cutout in the rigid part of the angle iron for the tie rod that has to go up in there. That's this guy right here. So what we have is a 4x7 by 3/8 angle iron. We're going to use the Evolution saw. I can use a torch to cut it. I can cut it with a plasma cutter. I can cut it with that circular saw I got. I cannot cut it with my Milwaukee abrasive wheel saw. The bed on this is just big enough to accommodate that 7-inch wide channel iron. I know what you're saying. Gee, Andy, flip that over so you got the V facing down. Well, brilliant. That's not going to fit in the saw that way, so we're going to have to cut it like this. I'm sorry. So we'll see how that works. And I've got to make a angle iron bracket so that I could put it on the bench. The saw is about 2 1/4 inches up off the floor. A piece of 3-inch angle iron, 1/2 inch thick, works great. You just lay it with the legs down, and you can use that for a bed to get it up in the air so that you've got an equal plane to cut on here. I've just got this little piece of channel iron to kind of catch it as it comes off the saw. So we'll go ahead and cut this piece of channel iron. This will be the first time I've used this saw. Jared has used it quite a bit doing some exhaust work, cutting miter cuts and 5-inch exhaust pipe to build the exhaust pipe for Truck 7. So let's go ahead and give this a try. Well, it is now Sunday morning. Before we get to working on welding our pieces into this frame, I figured I better get this fuel pump removed from this tank. If you recall in the last video, we went to installing the other 2 pumps that I have on a couple of other tanks, and they cracked, and this one is cracked. We haven't pumped any fuel through it yet, but it has a crack right here, and I don't know if there's another one forming right there or not, but we need to get this removed. I have new Tut Hill pumps, which are Fill-Rite pumps ordered, and they're supposed to be here in a couple days. I've got to send these 3 units here back. So we're gonna go ahead and get this out of the truck, get the tank capped. And in a couple days, we'll have to put another pump in it. Now, I had some comments, gee, why didn't you put the fuel tank in front of the toolbox? Well, the reason why I didn't do it that way is because I want to use the tank to protect the toolbox. You throw a sledgehammer or something in the back of the truck, or a spare tire, and it rolls up forward and it bounces into the toolbox. The toolbox is not going to take on those kind of hits as well as this tank is going to take it. So that's why I have it mounted this way. Plus, where am I going to put the hose? If the fuel pump is up front, what do I do with all this hose here? Just leave it on top of the tank? Or maybe I should put a J-hook on the side of that headache rack. That's what I could do. I could put a J-hook on the side of that headache rack, and I could hang the hose down over the side of the truck, and then maybe pull out the stake pocket and pull the nozzle back to here and just shove it in the stake pocket. That would probably be a better idea. So yeah, that's why it's mounted this way. So we're gonna get this pump removed, and then we're gonna get to welding here. Well, this is where we are at. I've got this right hand side all in place. I had originally had it clamped, but I could not get it tight enough down on the frame, and I wanted to make sure I had it right down perfect. So I had a couple of boxes of U-bolts upstairs. They're used to put a flatbed onto a truck frame. They're a little long, and I had to make some blocking, which will show you what we're doing here on the bench. I've got to get the other side put into place too. I want both sides straight so that we don't leave a twist in it that we can't manipulate and move out for later. So I had a couple of boxes of these U-bolts upstairs, and I'm cutting 3-inch and 5-inch blocks to put in at the top of the U-bolt and at the bottom. These U-bolts basically have like a 3.5-inch opening, 3 to 3.5 inch at the top. I can't pull it down tight because this angle iron here, it's 4 inches. So I'll put a 3-inch block at the top and then a 5-inch one at the bottom. And then we can squeeze that together. I'm about 1 inch off in the back. I've got the front kind of clamped down, so we'll get some blocking in there, snug that one, put a U-bolt up front here, snug that. I don't know if I can get away with using 2 here. I probably should have 4 on the other side instead of 3, but we'll see how things go here. We'll get that squeezed together, and then once that is clamped together, we know that both frame rails are perfectly parallel with each other, with the cross members that are in them frame rails. If we leave a twist in there, we might not be able to get that twist back out. And then what that will do is it will leave the twist in the motor mounts, and we don't want any problems to haunt us there down the road. So we're gonna get the angle iron in the top, and then, well, we'll show it to you once we get it all kind of put together here. So let's go ahead and get our blocking caught here. That Evolution saw, I don't know what happened to that, but I ended up having to cut the angle iron after that saw quit. I thought it kicked the breaker. It did not kick the breaker. I thought it had a bad cord. The cord wasn't bad either, so looks like I have to take that back and get that warrantied. So I've been using the trusty, handy Milwaukee 18-volt saw. This has only got like a 2-inch depth of cut, so I have to make 2 cuts to get down through this tube here. The abrasive saw, that'll just about cut 4 inches, but it's quicker and easier just to use the Milwaukee abrasive cut saw. So we've got to cut our blocking, and then we'll get them U-bolts to squeeze that frame, and we'll show you what things look like here once we get that wrapped up. Alright, so we have angle iron in both sides. We're all U-bolted and clamped, and we've got everything all nice and tight. Both sides are completely parallel with each other, and we're ready to weld. We did have, with the way we had this jacked up, it was setting on, the engine was setting down on these 2 rear jack stands. Now, since we've got that angle iron in there, everything is true right from the front to the back, and that frame is right where it needs to be. So this is where we are gonna leave off with you guys. I think this video is about long enough, and we're gonna start welding. So when we join back up with you, we'll have most of this welded back in there, and then we'll do our fit up of our bottom piece. I'll show you how I'm gonna do that. Get everything all welded. We'll have to cap that tie rod groove, and then we can roll the axle underneath, bolt it into place, and then we do have some hoses that we're gonna replace because they're just gonna be easier to do it now than to do it later. So with that being said, I'm gonna get to welding, and we are gonna see you at the next video. So, thanks for watching, and we will join up with you after we get this all welded. So, thanks for watching. We'll catch you later.